Okay. Okay, today we'll begin Daf Tesvav at the Mishnah. Yeah. Thank Hashem that we're able to learn every day. That's possible learning. We should have this Mikdash immediately. The Mishnah starts like this: Harini Nazir L'Kshili Ben, Nazir L'Me'ayim. Sounds very familiar, but this is slightly different. He says, I'm going to be a Nazir when I have a son. That we had yesterday also. However, yesterday we said, and I'll be a Nazir. Today he says, I'm going to be a Nazir for 100 days. We're going to see that there's a difference. Because before, when he said that I'm going to be a Nazir, so he wasn't able to have the Naziris of his son. Before, what happened was he started the Naziris, his own Naziris, and then he has a son. So then it interrupts the Naziris of his own Naziris, and then he goes back to his own Naziris. That's what we said. Over here, what we're having is he's going to start his own Naziris, which was 100 days. And it's very possible for him to have the Naziris of his son fully absorbed into his own Naziris. Because it's 100 days. It's not just a 30-day thing. Before we had, or starting 20 days late, there was all of those cases. So what happens is like this. Neilad Ben, and then he has a son. But there's a difference. Ad Shivim, if it's up until 70 days of his 100 days, which means 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, any of those times, Leihav Sid Klum, he doesn't lose out at all. What we're going to explain, Leihav Sid Klum really means that from day 50 to day 80 is getting counted as two Naziris. It's covering the 100-day Naziris, and it's also covering the Naziris of his son, which we didn't say before. We always said he has to interrupt it and then he starts again. Here it actually gets included in, and he gets to double the count, double the Naziris for each day.
They run concurrently.
Concurrently, right?
In that case, would you have to take double the sacrifices?
Now, regarding the sacrifices, I have to see in the commentaries what they're going to say, how that works. I'm not sure. I think what's going to happen is like this. When he finishes the Naziris, so 50 to 80 was not a good example. It has to be finished. So what would happen is he would shave his head in the middle, bring the sacrifice in the middle, and then restart the count, and then continue that, and have a complete 30 days afterwards. So it'd be 40 to 70. That would be how it would work. But I didn't learn it like that. I learned like this, that he should really, and when it says over here 70, it doesn't mean that it ends by 70. It means that it begins by 7. As long as he can get the see, what would happen is, let's say he has on day 69, he has a son. Then that would, because it's fully absorbed before 100, then that would be counted as the Nazir. Then I think he would only bring the one sacrifice at the end. That's what it sounds like. But one set of the sacrifices up there. What happens? Okay, now over here we're using the term until 70. Until 70. What about 70 itself? And then we're going to say, what about 71? But meanwhile, until 70, let's keep it simple. Lachar Shivim, once it's after 70, So then Seiser Shivim, it said the Mishnah says Seiser Shivim means it breaks the 70. It doesn't. I think we're supposed to take out that word. I saw in the Tosfos that the word Shivim was taken out. It's Seiser. It means it breaks it. Take out the word Shivim. Because you're not going to be able to get the whole Nazirus of the sun absorbed into the 100 days, so it's going to be considered a separate one, which means I'll have to complete the 100 days afterwards. So it's going to interrupt it instead of being concurrent.
Because there's no time to do it. Because there would be no time to do the whole 30 within the 100.
Right, because I can't get it fully absorbed. It's only when it's fully absorbed that the Nazirus is concurrent to both Nazirus.
So it happens on day 72, for sure he's in trouble.
Right. What happens on day 71 is going to be a big discussion in the Gemara. And on day 70, we thought we had it clear, but it's not so clear. Okay. I'm a Rav. We jump into this right away. Rav says, Yom Shivim Oila Lakan Olakan. See, what Rav holds is that Miktas Yom Kikule, which means that when I start the Nazirus of the sun, which is only 30 days, start the Nazirus of the sun, which is 30 days, on day 70 is already the first day.
He said, well, I mean, it's implying that you'll be a Nazir until he has a son.
No.
I'm hereby Nazir when I will have a son.
I mean, when I have a son, I will be a Nazir. He's saying two things. He says, first of all, I'm going to be a Nazir when I have a son. Then he says, I'm going to be a Nazir for 100 days. He didn't have a son yet, so he starts his 100 days first. But because he said that I'm going to be a Nazir first, but when I have a son, he said I'm going to be a Nazir when I have a son first. That means that he does have a son anywhere. It interrupts the 100 days, which he started earlier just to save time, right? And so if it gets fully absorbed into those 100 days, then you can actually count the days of the 100 days together with the days of the sun. If you were going to California, I thought you were going. I thought I understood from Al-Hanan, but I must have been.
Oh.
Okay. So now we have Rav says Yom Shiv Ma'ila Lakan Lakan. 70 is counted for both. So what that would mean. Let me. Then it's got 110, so that means that he can't count both of them. He can't count them both at the same time. What we'd have to do is he would have to add on the extra 20 at the end because you counted, right?
Wow. It would be 100 days, and if you're not putting it together, it'd be another 30, right?
Then it would be
30.
No. You would stop at 80, and you would count the 30. And then you would have to add, which means 110. Then you would have to add on another 20 at the end. It'd be 130 because you can't count it together. We're learning a new piece over here that if it's fully absorbed, the second Nazirus is fully absorbed in the first one, then you can count them both as the same day can go for both. Okay, but what Rav is telling us is a very interesting point. He says that the 70th day could go for both. Now, what comes out according to Rav is an extra detail. You see, what happens is day 70, if that's day 1, then 71 is already day 2, which means instead of ending at 100, both of them actually ending at 100. At 99, he's already finished the Nazirus of the sun. Because 30 days is supposed to start, if it would start from 71, they would complete together. But if they start at 70, and it's going to finish a day earlier.
I see where the whole discussion 71 is going to come into play.
Yeah. So the Gemara asks on Rav, the Gemara says, Tanan, Noilad Layad Shivim. He has a child up until day 70, including day 70. Layhifsid Klum. We're fine with saying until 70 means including. Advad Bachal, that's fine. We could say that it included. So we say Lo Yafsid Klum, he doesn't lose out at all. Now we meant he doesn't lose out means that he doesn't lose out that having to count another 30 days on top of the 100. It's included, it's absorbed. The only problem is, but if you're going to accept that day works for both, so then we say that he's going to end on 99 for the sun. So it's not like hifsid klum. It's not that he doesn't lose out. It's guri mitkar. He's actually gaining. He's gaining one day. Now the Gemara is saying over here like this, that when does a person bring the sacrifices? The day following he completes his Nazirus. Now, that's a rabbinic law that you have to wait to the following day. Really, you should be allowed to do it on that day itself. But because someone may end up saying that I'm taking the Nazirus for 30 full days, then the 30th day itself, he can't bring the sacrifice because he's not finished it until he reaches the 31st day. But on a regular stam, you say that the day is over once it starts. That's already good enough. Once the day starts, it's good enough. He should be able to bring the sacrifice. So over here, he finishes the Nazirus of his son on the 99th day. He should be able now to bring his sacrifices on day 100, except that his own Nazirus was 100 days. So if he only had his own Nazirus, he would have to wait till 101. Now that he has the Nazirus of his son that's ending on 99, so then he's actually gaining one day, and he can actually bring it on day 100. Now, but what about the Nazirus of 100? That should be, he should have to bring that on 101. So we say that because he has another Nazirus that's finishing right then, we're going to be lenient on him. We're going to let him to bring the sacrifices on day 100. So it turns out that he's actually gaining. So the Gemara says, Ella bedinhu the leilasni ad shivim. Shim diktani seifa acher shivim seiser tani reisha shivim. This is really the Gemara here is like missing. It's funny. It's what it really wanted to say is it didn't want to say the term lei hifsid, but because it says afterwards that it's seiser. Let me say that in English. We have two parts to the Mishnah. You have one part that says that if the child is born after day 70 of the 100, then it interrupts the 100 and he has to do the 30 days of the son independently of the 100. He interrupts, he does the 30, and then afterwards he completes it afterwards, the 100 afterwards. So therefore, if the son is born before the 70 or up until the 70, then we say that he doesn't lose out, because we're contrasting it to Seiser where he does lose out, but really he actually gains. That's what the Gemara means to say. Okay. Tashma mi Seifa. Come listen from the Seifa. Neilad acher shivim Seiser. Born, if the child is born after 70, it interrupts. It breaks the Nazirus of the 100 days. He has to count the Nazirus of his son, which is 30 days, not of the son, it's the Nazirus that he accepted when the son is born. He has to count that for 30 days. And what do you mean after 70? It's really, he has one more day there. He has until day 71.
So he doesn't have to complete the 100? Is that what you're saying? Or does
So
he
they'll
make up
actually
for it?
get completed together. Well, no. If it's born after 70, if the child's born after 70, then he has to complete the 100 after he completes the 30, because it interrupts it. He
So
takes
the
a pause
remainder of the 100 he continues
after the 30. Takes a pause to do the 30, and then he goes back to the 100. But if it's the child is born,
We discussed what a pause exactly is before.
Yeah.
We learned yesterday or
Yeah.
the day before.
yeah, that he
Yeah, so
has to
cuts his-
continue it.
No, but doesn't he?
Oh, does he cut his
gets
hair? So that would depend if he has the full 30 days afterwards, then he would cut his hair and bring sacrifice. Okay. The problem is that it says if the child is born after 70, then that goes to a different status, and it interrupts. But the truth is that it really shouldn't interrupt if it's born on 71. Because 71, if it counts, part of a day counts as a day, so then day 71 is already day one. And I'll finish on 100, it'll work. 71, 72, we'll reach 30 at 100. So the Gemara says, "My acher." What does it mean after 70? It means acher. After, which means day 72. Where does that? You don't really see this, but there is a concept. There's acher titar. After. It means after the last day.
So yeah, the Mishnah is referring to the second day after the 7th.
Second day after. Okay. Well, where it says aval acher mamish, but what happens if it's the day 71? What would be the din? Achinami d'lei sasar. Same question. Achinami d'lei sasar. It won't interrupt it. If that's the case, my year ditani ad shivim lehifsik klum afilu acher shivim nami. What are you saying up until 70? He doesn't lose out. It's up until 71. It must mean that actually 70. And 71 is already a different story, which means that because day 71 started for Naziris of the 100, I can't count it now for the Naziris of the sun. I can't count both days together. Half a day for this and half a day. I can't do that. And so to our Mishnah to Rav. Now, this is the language here is very strange. What it means to say is, and so to our Mishnah does not fit with Rav. We see that our Mishnah doesn't fit with Rav, because Rav said that the 70th day would count for both. That's not going to fit with our Mishnah, because our Mishnah had a cutoff point by day 70. Okay, now the Gemara says, "V'Rav kaman amar l'shmaiti." So who does Rav go according to? The Rav says, "Michtasiyim kekula," that one day can count for both. Didn't we have before Michtasiyim kekula? We had that we are counting one day for both. Tosfos here mentions that we said before, and he differentiates between what we're dealing with here and what we're dealing with there. The difference is when we hadn't mixed the same kukula before, we were completing a Naziris, bringing sacrifices, and starting a new Naziris right after that, on the same day. Over here, we're not actually completing a Naziris. We're interrupting a Naziris. It's not complete. When it's complete, we can say that we finished and we started. But if we're still in the middle, then we can't. If you're counting it for this, then you can't count it for that. That's what Tosfos says. That. Okay. So who does Rav go according to? So the Gemara throws in some other cases from other halachas to do a comparison to see if it fits with Rav. What we're saying here is that if you do pause, you can't count that same day for both. But if you end one, you can count that same day for the next one. When it's totally completed, you can get half the old Naziris in the morning and half the new Naziris in the afternoon.
That's what we increase.
Right. In this example where it's pausing.
Both. In that case, you count both.
No, if it's totally absorbed, then you count both, fully both, right? If it's fully absorbed. But if it's interrupting and you have to finish it later, then you can't count one of the days. You can't count the previous one in the morning and the new one in the afternoon when you still have to finish the old one after this is over. So it can only be one or the other.
So that's one of the explanations that they give about the 70, because 71 won't be.
Right, the 71 won't be able to be counted because the 71 won't be able to be counted, right? Okay. Okay. Gemara says like this: who does Rab go according to? Ilema Kabashal. If you say wants to go, if you say that Rab is following the opinion of Abishal, which we didn't say yet, but he holds. The Tanan, it was taught in the Mishnah. What usually happens by someone passes away before a holiday is they sit shiva for an hour. Sometimes it's like right before the holiday, they'll even sit shiva by the funeral home or something. And then that way they get an hour in. Once an hour, they had an hour of shiva, and the holiday comes in and stops the shiva. That's what happened. This opinion here doesn't hold like that. This opinion holds that they have to have sat for 3 days for the shiva to be interrupted by the holiday. Otherwise, it's not considered that they sat shiva. It has to be for 3 days. So, then the shiva is interrupted, and the holiday stops it, and there's no shiva after the holiday. If it was less than 3 days, then they would have to count the shiva after the holiday. Let's say they sat shiva for 7 days, for 8 days before the regal. That means they had 7 days of the shiva, plus 1 day of the shleishim, of the 30 days, this degrees of mourning. It's a 7-day period, it's a 30-day period. 30-day period is not supposed to take a haircut during the 30-day period. 7 days is they can't bathe and work, and there's all these halachas, shave. I guess they can't shave the whole 30 days as well. But if they counted 8 days before the holiday, then Batlamen Exer Shleishim, then the Shleishim goes off. Because the holiday takes that away. And he's allowed to take a haircut before the holiday. If he doesn't take his haircut for the holiday, then he can't take his haircut afterwards. It's not really, it's like an allowance that because there's a holiday here, so you can take your haircut. But if you don't take that haircut, then you miss your chance.
Is that
until the 30 days.
Applied to every type of Nazir?
No, here we're talking about someone that's mourning.
Oh, okay.
Someone passed away. So we're talking about that he's not supposed to take a haircut for 30 days. So he gets this chance to take the haircut according to this first opinion up until the holiday. And if he doesn't do that, then it didn't work. The holiday didn't really break it. After the holiday, he has to wait till 30 days. Abishal says 2 points that he argues. No, the holiday breaks it entirely. He didn't take his haircut beforehand. He doesn't have to wait till day 30 to take his haircut. The holiday came, it interrupted it, and that's how it's in halacha as well, I believe, that the holiday interrupts the shiva and the shleishim. Okay. Second point is that he says, shekashem shemitzvah shleishim mevateles gezer shiva kach mitzvah shiva mevateles gezer shleishim. Says that it's not really the 8th day. It's not the 8th day that could break the shleishim. It could even be day 7 that could break the shleishim. Just like the 3 days, the holiday falls by the 3 days, after 3 days, which means even the 3rd day, it would interrupt the shiva. So too, if the holiday falls on the 7th day, because Mikta Siyam Kakule, the 7th day is already starts at the beginning of the 7th day. So if the holiday falls on the 7th day, that means that the 7th day, it doesn't have to be the 8th day for the holiday to fall. Even if it falls on the 7th day, then that's already going to break the shleishim. How does the holiday fall on the middle of the day? Yeah, well, Shabbos, they don't have mourning in public. It's private. No, oh yeah, of course it can't be Shabbos. Because there would never be 7 days. It means the holidays means like Pesach. Yeah. Not for the holiday. Not for this regarding Avelis. It doesn't have the joy aspect.
Excuse me.
Yeah.
Back on the second line. Shukashim Shemisa Shloshim Nevatel Zera Sheva. This is Avashal's opinion.
Yes, we didn't get that opinion about the 1 hour. Where did I see?
So he's saying you need 3 days.
Yeah,
Not
just like the
not like we
Tanakhama,
do today.
right? Both of them say that there's 3 days here. The Ikar HaAvelis is the first 3 days. Once the 3 days comes in, now, according to the Tanakhama, you have to start the Shleishim for it to be broken, and according to Abashal, doesn't have to start. Even the 7th day is enough for the Shleishim to be interrupted. Now, okay. So it says, the Gemara says, my time of Abashal, what's the reason for Abashal that the 7th day of the Shiva should be enough, that if the holiday comes on the 7th day, then that should break the 30 days as well. It says, because Lamishim Kasavar, Shri Yoila Lakan Lakan. It must be that the 7th day is normally considered the 7th day of Avelis, and it's also considered the first day of the Shleishim. So that would fit with what Rav said, that Rav said that the 70th day gets counted for the one Naziris, and it's also counted for the other Naziris. It gets counted for both. Seems to be a little different, because we were saying that it was Miktasay and Kula. Now we're saying that it's simultaneous, that it gets used for both. Okay, the Gemara asks, still ma'adkan like Amar Abashal El Ba Avela Zayin Derabanan. The comparison isn't perfect. We're looking for a support for Rav. Rav says that the 70th day gets counted for both, and we're using an example from Avelis, that Avelis, the 7th day of the Shiva, is also the first day of the Shleishim. But maybe that's because Avelis is really only rabbinic. But Naziris is a daraisa. So the comparison isn't good. Abashal says that, maybe Abashal would not agree with Rav, that by Naziris we should count 1 day for both. He only says it by rabbinic laws, by the laws of mourning. The truth is that by the Naziris, it also is rabbinic, because we said that it was the sacrifices are brought the day later. That was of rabbinic nature. But whatever the case is, at least the basis of it is a daraisa. The Gemara says, "Dilma adkan like Amar B'Shal El Bavel Sain Derabanan Av Nas Daraisa Loi." The Gemara switches. El Rav Damakar Rabbi Yasi. Rav is not following the opinion of Abashal, he's following the opinion of Rabbi Yasi. The Tanya was taught in a brisa. Rabbi Yasi Eimer Shemer Siyam K'neged Yaim Sheshachtu V'Zarka La B'Sheni Shelav Achkach Rasa Reza Eina Chelas B'Tur Melas Pesach Sheni. Okay, there's I don't know if you remember this, the Zava. You know what a Zava is? A woman that sees blood outside of the Nida. What happens is usually she would see once a month, would become a Nida. And then she's tummy for 7 days. Right. So off the monthly cycle, in the middle there's 7 and 11. 7 days of Nida, and then there would be 11 potential days of Ziva. So during those days, those 11 days, that's where you have to start from. Sounds impure. So during those 11 days, if she sees for 1 day, if she's only tummy for 1 day, the following day she just watches to see if she's going. It's called Shemeres Yom Keneged Yom. She has to watch the following day. If she sees for 2 days, she's also a Shemeres Yom Keneged Yom. She only watches 1 day to see if she's going to see again. And if she sees for 3 days, then she's tummy for 7 days, and they have to be clean days. She has to check every day. No, it's the second day. The second day was already counted for the first day. And now she has 1 more day to check for this. So it's Shemeres Yom Keneged Yom. It's 1 day per day. So what happens if she's a Shemeres Yom Keneged Yom? I mean, she saw either 1 day or 2 days. And on the 3rd day or the 2nd day, depending on what the scenario was, it's Erev Pesach. So that day she was clean. So they went and they shechted the Korban Pesach, as part of the group. And then after the Korban Pesach is shechted, she sees blood. Now she saw 3 days, right? Now, so she's tummy. She can't eat the Korban Pesach because she's tummy. But was it counted, the Korban Pesach? Does she have to bring another Korban Pesach, Pesach Sheni? Was she considered pure at the time of the Shechita? If she was pure at the time of the Shechita, and then for whatever reason she couldn't eat it, so she's exempt from Pesach Sheni. But if the Shechita for her was nothing because she was Tameh, that was totally not allowed, so then she would have to bring the Pesach Sheni. No, she goes to the mikveh in the middle of the day. Yeah, the morning she wakes up, she goes to the mikveh, and she waits the rest of the day, and hopefully nothing happens. Good. Well, the mitzvah is the shechting. There's another mitzvah to eat, but the obligation was the shechting, yeah. The offering of the sacrifice. Well, go ahead.
So in that case, she completes one of them,
right. So over here, she didn't get to eat it, but what we're going to say is, she doesn't eat from the sacrifice because she's impure. But she's exempt from bringing the Pesach Sheni, the second Pesach, because the first Pesach was brought and she was fine. My time with the Rabbi Yossi. Why does Rabbi Yossi say this? Because he says that waiting that extra day, she waited the extra day. She started in the morning, it's already done. She waited an hour in the morning, was good enough. That's what Rab's opinion that says that the 70th day could count for both this one and for that one. Yeah, an hour in the morning counts for the old Nazirus, and an hour in the afternoon counts for the other Nazirus. Works perfectly. Okay, Taisus takes out following 4 words. And he says, and what happens is, when she becomes tummy again on the 3rd day, it's only from then and on. It's not retroactive. It doesn't fill in the gap between day 2 and when she saw on day 3. It doesn't go back and make it all tummy. And that's why the Korban Pesach that was shechted in purity. At the end of this Gemara, we're going to ask on the Zion. So how do you ever get 3 days? If each time it's only from then and on, it's supposed to be. Oh, so the Gemara is going to say something like that. Okay. Does Rabbi Yossi hold this for Hatanya, that it doesn't go back retroactively? Hatanya, but we have a brayso Rabbi Yossi Omer Zav Bal Shtei Riyos. Now we go over to a Zav. A Zav is a man that has an emission, and it would be 2. It's an abnormal emission. So Zav Bal Shtei Riyos Shachtu V'Zarkol of B'Shvi. He saw it twice. He doesn't have to bring a carbon, but he's still fully tummy, and he's tummy for a complete 7 days. But on the 7th day it was Erev Pesach, so they shechted the carbon for him. V'Zarakala, and then they sprinkled the blood. And then he interrupted the 7 days by, on the last day, he sees again, which is a problem. It breaks the 7 days. Even though all the 7 days, everything that he sat on, everything that he laid on becomes tamei retroactively, but B'tur Milas Pesach Sheni, he doesn't have to make a Pesach Sheni. What are you telling me that Rabbi Yossi holds that it's not Metamal Mafreya? It is Metamal Mafreya, means retroactive. It is Metamal Mafreya, it does go back retroactive. My answer is Ma'ila Mafreya Midirabanan. All of that is only rabbinic. That's just a Gzeira, a rabbinic law. It's not really retroactive, and therefore the Korban Pesach that was shechted is going to be acceptable.
case like it doesn't go retroactive.
Sometimes he has to restart it as well. He has to restart to 7 days. He has to, depends on what he sees next time. If it's a Zav, if he sees another emission of Ziva, then he has to restart the 7 days. And but what we're saying is on the seventh day itself, he was pure at that time. And it doesn't go back at all. But now he's has 14 days that he's tummy. Now he went to the mikvah in the morning of the 7th, which is what he's supposed to do. Goes to the mikvah in the morning. Hopefully the rest of the day is going to be pure. It turned out it wasn't pure. So he has to restart it. That would be the rule. Now, what happens with everything that he was involved with after he went to the mikveh? During the 7 days, I'm sure he didn't touch anything, or he didn't lay on anything that he wasn't supposed to. They could tell me. But on the 7th day itself, he thought he was pure already. He went to the mikveh. So he thinks everything's pure. But then he sees later on that day, after the Karban Pesach Shechted, he sees Tumah again. So it goes back and it makes him, and it makes him only tummy rabbinically. That's what we're saying. Oh, very nice. Thank you. Honey Chris.
I didn't know that NATO did.
Right. Over here also he has to start again.
But it depends.
But it doesn't go back retroactive. At least on the 7th day, he already went to the mikvah on the 7th day. So he doesn't become, according to this opinion, which is not what's accepted, but according to this opinion, it only continues that he has the tumah and he has to recount, but it doesn't go back retroactively. Hachanami Mistaber, it also makes sense that it would only be rabbinic. Because if you would say that it's a biblical law, that it's mitamal mafreya, that everything that he was in contact with after he went to the mikvah on the 7th day is all tamei, then am I Peter Milas Pesach Sheni? Then why is he exempt from making a Pesach Sheni? He was tamei when they shechted for him. He should have to make the Pesach Sheni. Okay. When it says that's not a full proof because Laila Meimalach Tumah Deraisa. Really, he is tamei mideraisa. But when it comes to the Karban Pesach, time deziva hitiru. There's a special halacha that if someone did not know that he was tamei, they shechted the Karban Pesach, and then he finds out that the place that he was standing had underneath someone had been buried there years ago, totally forgotten grave, and they just discovered that there was someone there. So we say that he doesn't have to bring another Karban Pesach, even though he was tamei at the time of the Karban Pesach, but because it was unknown, so that would be he's exempt. In his state of mind, in his situation, he had brought the Karban Pesach properly because there was no way of knowing that. So there was no negligence there. So here also, we would say that this is like Tohaim Deziva. It's a unknown impurity that was going to come. How is he supposed to know that it was going to become Tamei afterwards? That's going to be retroactive. So it could be that for Karban Pesach, he's fine, even though the retroactive Tumah is actually Deraisa. It's a possibility. But for Rabbi several I'm afraid the Rabbanan. It says that Rabbi also holds that the retroactive Tumah is only rabbinic. The Tanya was taught in a Bryce. Rabbi Omer Yesha says, Haraya Zav, Shvi Shalai, Seiser Shalachana. Someone sees a Zav has another emission on the 7th day, it breaks all the days that he counted. Amalei Rabbi Yochanan Rabbi Yochanan says that it doesn't break the days that he's counted. He's totally finished. It only breaks that one day. It only breaks that one day. He has to count one more day. That's what it sounds like. Mar says, This is, I guess, Rabbi Shia asking Rabbi Yochanan. Isasar, If it breaks it, then kuli sasar, then he has to restart because it says you have to have 7 clean days. He didn't have 7 clean days. V'ilay sasar, and if it doesn't break it, it shouldn't even break that day because he's totally done. So what do you mean it only breaks that one day? Rabbi Yechon says it doesn't break anything. Okay. And what's that to over here? This is Rabbi Yochanan telling Rabbi Yoshia. Rabbi Yosi Koi Kavasech. Rabbi Yosi holds like you. Where Rabbi Yoshia says that the 7th day is also part of the days and has to go back and has to restart. Damar Mikanal Abba Metame. Rabbi Yosi says that it's only Tameh from then and on. Well, this can't be that Rabbi Yochanan tells Rabbi Yoshia. This is the opposite. This is Rabbi Yoshia telling Rabbi Yochanan. Why does the 7th day not have to restart the whole 7? It's because when he sees on the 7th, it's a brand new. It does not metamal mafreya. It continues further, and that's why it's able to. That's why it's just a new seeing. It doesn't go back and break anything. Mar says, but Rabbi Yosi says that it is metamal mafreya. Where did we say that? Rabbi Yosi says that even though he's exempt from bringing the Pesach Sheni, but it was metamal mafreya. So it says ma'ila mafreya midrabanan. It must mean that Rabbi Yosi really holds that it's only rabbinic, and that would be that Rabbi Yoshia holds that Brisa was talking about that it's only the retroactive tumah is only rabbinic. Now the Gemara says, 1 second. What about how do you explain Rabbi Yosi? Rabbi Yosi michti savar miktasi kekulei zavar gemura demaisi karban echem mishkachas. This question we mentioned. How if a partial day is considered like a whole day? So then, how do you ever get 3 days in a row that she's going to be tummy? Because if you think about it, what would happen is she sees on let's say Sunday, and then she sees again on Monday, then she sees again on Tuesday. The problem is Monday morning was clean, so that means she's already pure. So Monday afternoon, when she sees again, that's a brand new seeing. Tuesday afternoon, when she sees again, that's a brand new seeing. Right? According to this, because the partial day in the morning was already finished. So how do you ever have 3 days where she would have to bring a carbon? There was always a partial day somewhere. My answers, 1 second. The other part of the day is when she sees. The other part of the day was her watching to see if she's going to be clean, which she is satisfied. If you want, you can answer the kashafat that it's pouring from her for 3 days straight. Doesn't sound very healthy, but that would be one possibility where you have 3 days in a row. That's basically what you answered, but it was at the time when the day changes. So she sees a little bit before nightfall and continues into nightfall. So she never has the beginning. You see, when can I count a partial day? It's only if it's either at the beginning or the end. But if the beginning and the end of each day is tameh, that's when she sees. So then I'm never going to have an empty beginning of a day. Partial day has to be either the beginning or the end of the day. So what's happening here is that she's seeing always as the day changes, she's seeing blood. She never gets a clean day. This was the second parak. Okay, have a good day, everyone.